Hi guys, Vino here and welcome to this Vino Plum production, and welcome to not just one, not two, but three movie reviews. Now I say the word review, but these are going to be more movie discussions, and going forward I'm going to be wanting to call these discussions much more because, to be completely honest, I don't like calling these things reviews. I want a discussion going. If you disagree with my opinions, if you disagree with what I say, or you agree but there's some difference and stuff like that, tell me in the comment section down below. The whole point of these videos is to get a discussion going, get some conversation going. And what are the films I'm going to be talking about today? Well, it's the first three Dirty Harry movies, obviously starring Clint Eastwood. I actually watched the first Dirty Harry movie way back last year. I say way back as if it's much further than that, but anyway. When I was furloughed for 3.5 weeks, during that time I sat down and watched the first Dirty Harry movie, and then very recently I watched the next two Dirty Harry movies, which is Magnum Force and The Enforcer. And I'm not necessarily going to give any specific plot points apart from some of the characters and protagonists, antagonists in each of the films. 2 seconds. Namely because they kind of blend together for me. I actually don't remember much of the first film in terms of specific beats. Haha, beats, beat cop. Anyway, but I do remember the general theme of it all. And all I'm going to say is it's been in the background this whole entire time. So I've had this box set for quite a while now. This is the Clint Eastwood 35 films, 35 years box set. I actually bought this back when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, because obviously Clint Eastwood, being the Western man he is, as in he does a lot of Westerns, there's a lot of Westerns in this box set. I also went ahead and bought the Now No Name trilogy on Blu-ray, because that is the Western everyone suggests you watch when you talk about Westerns, so kind of had to. And then it took me a long time to finally start making my way through this box set, because it's rather daunting. It's a rather beefy box set, 35 films, 35 years, plus there's a extensive documentary on the man himself in here, so yeah. But I started making my way through it last year with Dirty Harry, and now I've obviously watched two more films in that series. And the first thing I'm going to say is, by God, I did not expect to enjoy Dirty Harry as much as I did. There's something about Dirty Harry. Obviously, he is very much I am apprehensive calling him a bent cop, but he's not exactly the most angelic cop, if you know what I mean. He definitely does his own ways. He goes above the law, around the law, under the law, whatever way he chooses to do. And actually the second film does explore this in a little bit more detail, and we'll get to that when we get to that film. But right off the bat, Dirty Harry, or Harry Callahan, just shows what a badass he is, what a straight talking, no nonsense cop he is. He comes into a scene, I think it's a scene in a restaurant if I remember correctly, and he just blasts people with his 44 Magnum. And actually the 44 Magnum is kind of an extension of Harry Callahan himself. There are many theories and videos on YouTube and other places and articles you can read through that kind of explore the philosophical nature of Harry's 44 Magnum, and in some ways it's the perfect pairing to Harry. So he goes through a different partner in each film due to reasons I'm not going to say here because it could be a spoiler, but he has a different partner in each film. However, you could say he only needs one partner, and that is his 44 Magnum. And there's a lot of people, when they talk about these films, talk about the Magnum being a character in of itself, and it is a character in of itself. I don't think Harry Callahan would be Dirty Harry without his 44 Magnum. And the reason why he carries the 44 Magnum is because he hits what he aims at. So one of the reasons why cops, or anybody else, I suppose cops, would go for a lesser caliber weapon like a 357 is because it doesn't have as much stopping force. as the expression goes, or as is an actual factor of a weapon, is its stopping force. There, you're more likely to critically injure or lethally injure somebody with a 44 Magnum than you are a 357. So people within the police force obviously would rather you carry a weapon. If you do accidentally shoot the wrong person, there's less chance they're going to die from that injury, obviously depending on where you shoot. Whereas a 44 Magnum doesn't really care what it hits. It's going to go through it pretty much no matter what, because it is a hand cannon. And during the shooting and the time which these films came out, it was the most powerful handgun known to man. It was known as a hand cannon, or it might be known nowadays as a hand cannon, because it was a far bigger caliber and bullet than any other weapon. And in some ways the 44 Magnum represents Dirty Harry himself. He's a straight talking, no nonsense, cuts through the crap kind of cop, and you could say the 44 Magnum is the same kind of weapon. It pretty much is almost destined to kill what it shoots at, and it just cuts through the crap. It just mows down bad guys like nobody's business. And for the entire film, you're just wondering what's the next kind of trick, dirty trick, I suppose, that Harry Callahan is going to pull in order to get one over on the superiors, get one over on the antagonist, get one over on his partner. To be completely honest, he does not play by the rules, and he plays by his own rules, just about. I'm not sure he even plays by his own rules sometimes. He just does what needs to be done and just cuts through the crap, and it really is a good film. Looking at it nowadays, where there's a lot of cop films nowadays, it's slow in comparison. But I think the film is suited to the slower style, if that makes any sense. We'll move on to Clint Eastwood's performance as Mr. Callahan. And by God, the man was made for the role. I have never seen, I don't think, a person more comfortable on camera than Clint Eastwood as Harry Callahan. He just looks like there's been this skin or this suit just waiting there for him to move into, these shoes for him to step into, and he steps into it so seamlessly. There's quite a few franchises of films where it takes a while for the lead character, for the lead actor, to kind of get to grips with the lead role. When it comes to Clint Eastwood, he slips into the role Dirty Harry like the role was made for him. And actually, I don't know specifically, but some of the people that were considered for the role before Clint Eastwood gets it, I can't imagine anybody else being Dirty Harry other than Mr. Eastwood himself, because by God, does he own that role? He is that role, in my opinion, to be completely honest, and I can't even begin to imagine any other person in the shoes of Clint Eastwood. The first film in the franchise is a pretty standard 70s kind of cop film with some action scenes, sort of an action cop film. He's going after this terrorist known as Scorpio. Is it Scorpio? Yeah, Scorpio. Is it terrorist or a serial killer? A rooftop sniper. So he's going after this, we'll call him antagonist, known as Scorpio, who is a terrorist or a serial killer, and he's given a job to take down this individual, and he's played by Andy Robinson. Andy Robinson's performance as Scorpio is fantastic. As the film goes on, he gets more mad, more mental, more crazy, and it really adds to the character the Scorpio is. Yeah, fantastic film, brutal, action-packed. I won't say action-packed, but it has some action scenes in there and just keeps you on the edge of your seat. One thing I will say about all three of these films is you know a film's good when it captures your attention that you don't know the time's gone by, and that's exactly what these films do for me. Moving on to Magnum Force. So, Magnum Force I like Magnum Force, and I don't know if any other films in the series are going to do this, because it actually leaves the assailant kind of, it leaves the assailant or the antagonist, their identity is secret until towards the end. And I like that because it makes it more of a whodunit kind of thing. Now, it tips its hand very early on when it comes to, excuse me, it tips its hand very early on when it comes to who the antagonist is. However, I like the fact it leaves things kind of to your imagination. It makes you thinking what's going on, and the film itself does actually provide some thought-provoking things. I'm thinking whether I want to spoil the film, and I think I might have to spoil the film in order to talk about some of the finer plot points. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold up Dexter. Hold up my hand. I'm going to hold up my hand. All the time my hand is on screen, I'm talking about spoilers of the film, and once I've finished talking about the film or the spoilers, we'll move on to the Enforcer, which I can talk about free of spoilers, because the assailants are pretty much, you've shown them pretty early on in the film, so there's no spoilers talking about it. So up the hand goes. I'm going to keep it here. So, ice cream truck. Anyway. So basically it turns out that a bunch of rookies on the police force are going around killing high up criminals that are getting away with whatever they're doing. There was a court hearing at the beginning of the film in which a high up criminal basically ends up getting off scot-free for what he does, and this team of rookies, you could call them the Magnum Force, are going around killing these high-end criminals. They also kill some bent politicians, if I remember correctly. So it does pose an interesting question about where's the line? When do you go over the line? Put this down. It poses the question, where is the line? Where do you draw the line? And it's a contrast between Dirty Harry himself and Magnum Force. I'm going to call them Magnum Force now, because obviously now I've taken my hand down, there's no spoilers. And it's a very interesting film. It's a very brutal film as well. There are some scenes in the film where the assailant guns down a load of people at a pool party, and it's a mob boss of some description, and he gets gunned down by the assailant, and a load of other people get caught in the crossfire, such as his newly engaged fiancée. And again, it really does pose some questions about, again, where do you draw the line? Where, you know, Dirty Harry himself is a very, very bent cop. Again, saying the word bent has its own connotations. He plays by his own rules, and you could, you know, say he's a bent cop. And where does he draw the line? And it really does pose some interesting questions. Once again, I was watching the film going, where's the time gone? The only thing about Magnum Force that starts rearing its ugly head and also continues on to the Enforcer, not so much with the first film, but one thing that starts happening is the police aspect of the films. They lose something, should I say, and this makes me want to go and start watching some 70s crime dramas, maybe like Hill Street Blues is what I'm trying to think of. Hill Street Blues, or maybe Starsky and Hutch, or something of that nature, because there are some jumps in, jumps in plot. I'll say that. Jumps in plot that seem to come out of nowhere. There's no lead up to it. There are some situations where the police aspect of the film seems to be lackluster or lacking in some way. Or, yeah, and I understand why. They're an hour and a half in length. You've got to make some sacrifices to keep the story churning along, and you can't be inevitably bogged down by the police aspect or the case aspect of any of the films, and I understand why they do it. There are some plot holes that rear their ugly head quite a bit when some of these things happen. So that's Magnum Force. Again, loved it. Really loved it. I really did like it, and it gave me some thought-provoking moments I never thought that a Dirty Harry film would give me. And last, but by no means least, we move on to The Enforcer, the third film in the Dirty Harry series, and the film I've literally just got done watching. I really liked The Enforcer. Now, one thing I will say that I kind of expected to start happening is they're starting to get into a rhythm, a flow, if you will, and some people may say they're starting to become monotonous or the same, but at the at the end of the day, you're watching a Dirty Harry movie. You don't necessarily watch these for, you know what you're getting into, is what I mean. So the Enforcer, but I'm teething straight again. Harry Callahan, Inspector Callahan, goes after I've forgotten what they're called. Bunch of terrorists, basically, that are making demands. Otherwise, they're going to blow up the city. I actually don't know the true reason why they want to blow up the city, other than the money. And in fact, I think in the movie somewhere it's actually said they're just in it for the bread. They're just in it for the money. They're not. Yeah, they're just in it for the money, basically, and the name of the terrorist group that they are bears no connection or resemblance to what they're actually trying to do. I think they've got like, the People's Freedom Group or something, but they're not actually that interested in. Wrong one. They're not actually that interested in freeing the people, helping the people out. They just want money, simply, at the end of the day. And it comes down to that same, primal want of money at the end of the day. Again, with the Enforcer, there are some parts in the film that there are some glaring plot holes that I had to suspend my disbelief. So there's actually a part where Callahan and his partner have just come out from a barber shop, having spoken to a contact that Mr. Harry wants to speak to, Mr. Harry Callahan wants to speak to. And as they're coming out of the shop and they drive away, a load of police officers turn up, a SWAT team turns up, and they're aiming their guns at the door and telling the people to come out. Harry would have heard that on the radio. He would have heard the chatter on the police radio that all this is happening, and yet he knows nothing of this happening. And as a kind of a weird political move, his Captain McKay is it Captain McKay or Lieutenant, whatever it is, his superior is basically gets him accommodation for doing that bust, despite the fact that Harry had nothing to do with that bust. In fact, he made a deal with one of the people involved with the barbershop. So that's a massive plot hole as far as I'm concerned, and there are many other plot holes that just don't make sense. And once again, like I've discussed, the police part of the films kind of leaves something to be desired. It feels like the police case doesn't really, rather than flowing naturally, it just jumps. It jumps from point to point, and doesn't really flow naturally like a normal police case would. But again, it's a film. At the end of the day, you're not necessarily watching it for the police case, but it does make me, it leaves me wanting something more. And again, as I've said, I may go away and start watching some 70s cop dramas to scratch that itch, basically, of wanting something more procedural and actually have a case flow in a proper way. But yes, if you haven't guessed from the way I'm talking, I loved the first three Dirty Harry movies, and I'm really looking forward to watching the next one, which actually might be today. To be completely honest, I'm thinking of chilling out for a bit and watching the fourth Dirty Harry movie. Is there only 4 or is there 5? The next one's called The Gauntlet, if I'm not mistaken, which looking forward to checking that one out. And there's a high chance I might be watching Friday the 13th, The New Blood, today, because I want to get that review out and record, well, at least recorded before tomorrow. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it.